Our planet is in peril. The dream that so many Americans fought for so many generations feels like it's slowly slipping away. I hear it all across Iowa, all across the country. You know it in your own lives. People are working harder and harder for less. They never pay more for college, or health care, or gas at the pump. It's harder to save, it's harder to retire. Some people are just keeping up on maxing out on their credit cards. Others are taking out home equity loans. Now housing prices are going down and they don't know where to turn next. And the worst is that you've lost faith that your leaders can or will do anything about it. You know, and no wonder you feel cynical. Because think about it, 8 years ago, a lot of promises were made and not many were kept. You were promised compassion and conservatism, and you got Katrina and wiretaps instead. You were promised a unifier in the White House, and instead you got a president who couldn't even lead the half of the country that voted for. You were promised a more ethical and more efficient Washington, and instead you have a Washington that is more corrupt and more wasteful than it was before. And the only mission that was ever accomplished was to use fear and falsehoods to take this country to a war that should have never been authorized and should have never been ready. And it's not what it's going to take. So it's not surprising then that people are cynical. But you know, it's precisely because of the failures of the last 7 years that I think people are paying such close attention to this race. Not just Democrats, but Republicans and independents who also have lost trust in their leaders that want to believe that our government can work, want to believe again that it's possible for America to do big and great things. And that's why this is a moment of such great challenge, but also great opportunity. We have the chance, perhaps for the first time in a generation, to bring the country together and to finally tackle problems that George Bush made worse, but that had been festering for long before George Bush ever took office. I mean, think about it. We've been talking about health care for decades now, to Democratic and Republican administrations. And yet, year after year, the only thing that's changed is the ranks of the uninsured have grown, and your premiums, deductibles, co-payments have gone up if you're lucky enough to have health insurance. Why is that? Well, part of the reason is because the drug companies and the insurance companies spent $1 billion over the last 10 years preventing reform from happening. $1 billion. $100 million a year on average in lobbying and campaign contributions and PR and spin. So it shouldn't be surprising then that the health care laws coming out of Congress have been very good for those industries, not so good for you. The same is true on energy. We've been talking about energy independence at least since Jimmy Carter. And yet the only thing that's changed is we actually import more oil from the Persian Gulf and other parts of the world than we did back in 1973. And gas prices have never been higher. And neither have ExxonMobil's profits. Why is that? Well, partly it's because Bush put Cheney in charge of energy policy, and Cheney met with the environmental groups once, he met with the renewable energy groups once, he met with the oil and gas companies 40 times. 40 times. So there's any wonder then that the energy laws written in Washington have been very good for the oil and gas companies, but not so good for you. And this is why Americans increasingly understand that it's not enough just to change political parties in the White House in this way. We have to change how politics is done. Fundamentally. In a big way.